spring forward is not really something that I ever learned how to do when I was growing up. In Arizona, where I was raised, we didn't have daylight savings time. I still don't really get the concept, but I know that last night I lost an hour of my sleep. And I'm wondering if there isn't some way we could set the clock forward from time to time anyway. Just, we see a challenge coming before us or a problem that we're a little bit nervous about. Wouldn't it be nice just to kind of dial the clock? Wouldn't it be nice, given everything we have to face in this country, given all the turmoil and the meltdown, wouldn't it be nice if we could just kind of spring forward, say, 2 years? And whatever we have to go through, we will have gone through, and we are all okay. I mean, I have great confidence in our country. I have great confidence in the American people. But really, wouldn't it be nice just to kind of spring forward? I think this is such a serious time we live in, but it's very different than what I remember 9/11 to be. I mean, I remember 9/11, it brought us together as a nation. It kind of made us all solid as a unit. This crisis, not so much. This is a debacle, frankly, that I think it causes everyone to second-guess our government, to second-guess our leaders, to second-guess the foundation of wealth and prosperity that our country is built on, to even second-guess our bosses and our jobs and our future. Frankly, it causes me to second-guess our neighbors. Just 2 weeks ago, 2 houses went up for sale in our neighborhood, and I thought to myself, ooh, here it comes in our own neighborhood. So please, let's spring forward just a couple of years, or in the language of my generation, beam me up, Scotty. Okay. But you can't do it, can you? Sometimes you just can't know the future, but there is a moment in the Bible, we just read it, where Jesus in some ways allows his disciples, for the purpose of exposing a truth, he allows his disciples to see ahead into a very, very unfortunate future. So if you're in your Bibles, turn to Mark chapter 8, verse 31. Sometimes you can see the future from where you stand, and this is what Jesus is doing right here in Mark chapter 8, verse 31. For the first time, he is fast-forwarding the tape into Good Friday. And he tells his disciples everything. In fact, I think he's telling them more than we read. I think there's a lot of depth here, and you can see it in the text. It says, he began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things. And I think he got into some details about what would happen. Something about the cross and the whips and the blood and the agonizing death. I think he probably told them that. He said it would be rejected by the elders and chief priests and teachers of the law, that he must be killed, and after that 3 days he would rise again. And it says in verse 32, he spoke plainly about this. And if you know the text, you know that Peter loses it. The great apostle Peter, the one that Jesus always relied on, loses it. Look what it says in verse 32. It says, Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. No, it can't be. No. You got the wrong idea. And we kind of understand that from Peter's point of view, because Peter would look back on the last few chapters of what is written here in Mark's gospel and said, hey, wait. We had 5,000 people for lunch, and miracles happened. We had 4,000 people for lunch, and miracles happened. And you came to my house, and you healed my mother-in-law. Thank God you healed my mother-in-law. And you You were there. You healed the deaf man, the mute man. In fact, right here in chapter 8, this very same chapter in verse 22, Jesus goes to Bethsaida and heals a man who was blind. That's Peter's hometown. And Peter must have thought to himself, why? Why, you've got to be kidding. What happened to that part about follow me and I'll make you fishers of men? What happened to that cool stuff that we were going to do? What are you saying, Jesus? And Jesus fires back at Peter. He says, if you read the text, but when Jesus, verse 33, but when Jesus turned and looked at his disciples, he rebuked Peter. So he's drawing his disciples into his rebuke of Peter. And guess what he says? He says, get behind me, Satan. You know, you want to be called a lot of things by Jesus, but you don't want to be called Satan by Jesus. This gives you the level, if you don't mind my just resting here for a moment, this gives you an idea of the level of intensity. I mean, Peter's probably cursing at Jesus. We know he cursed. He was a fisherman. You know, they curse all the time. We know that he cursed because we know what happened Good Friday by the fire. We know that Peter was a little emotional, and Jesus matches his heart for heart, emotion for emotion, and says, Peter, get behind me, Satan. You're not on the side of God, but on the side of men. And then I just want you to see this, what happened. In verse 33, he calls the whole crowd together with the disciples. Now, this is a very important part, because what's to follow is meant not just for the inner core, not just for Peter, and not just for the disciples, the 12. It's for the crowd. And guess what? You're in that crowd. I'm in that crowd. I don't care where you are in your walk, whether you're young like these kids over here and you're just starting out in your Christian faith, or you're a seasoned church veteran, you've been in churches all your life, if you're a cradle Anglican or Episcopalian or a Lutheran or a Methodist or a Baptist or a Roman Catholic, or if you have just come into this church here kind of to see if it's all really true and if these people here are authentic, it doesn't matter where you are. What Jesus has to say is meant for you. That's why I want to take this long time to build up to it, because what Jesus has to say is meant for everybody within the sound of my voice. And what he has to say is essentially a mission statement, a flag that's planted, a belief, an understanding, a vision, a north star for your life that will serve you well for the rest of your life. If you don't believe this, what I'm about to tell you from what Jesus said, you're going to suffer most of your life. If you don't believe this, you're going to make stupid and false choices. If you don't believe what Jesus says here, you're going to find yourself in one kind of trouble after another, one broken relationship after another after another. And it has to do with the most important thing that you own. You already own it. It has to do with the most important thing that you own that is under assault in our culture. That thing that Jesus is going to say you have is broken or bruised in some way. So in some instances in this crowd here, it's covered by piles of assets and toys and stuff that has been amassed over the years and decades of materialism. And maybe now only is being revealed. What Jesus says you have, what Jesus says is the most important thing to you, concerns also your romantic life. You don't mind my saying so?